Today I'm going to make another rant, an unedited, unscheduled, super planned rant. But this is on tiny houses and van life. And I hope I'm not the only one who thinks this entire trend of both of these things are mostly bullshit, right? Because let's start with the van life, right? This idea that it's supposed to be, a cheap way to live. It's to save money so you don't have to pay rent or whatever. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be, for someone who doesn't have a lot of money, who wants to save money, travel the country, see all these beautiful places, living free, living peacefully. But it's all bullshit. And several reasons. It's all like Instagram photos and look at me. I'm on the beach, parked at this place. We're going to take a bunch of photos, then we're going to leave, or we're going to pretend we live in our van and travel and it's wonderful. That's all bullshit. You want to know why? Because first off, you have those Mercedes Sprinters, which cost like, $60,000 or more? Yeah, you're not a struggling college student or something. You can drive around in a Mercedes Sprinter that's been completely decked out with wood grain bullshit and all this kitschy cactuses and stupid shit. You know what I mean? If you got all that shit decked out, that's not cheap, okay? You don't see these influencers driving some old shitty Ford Econoline van from the 90s that's rusty as hell and dented and looks like somebody died in there. You don't see that, right? Because it's not about practicality. It's not about affordability. It's about image. It's about status. It's some, spray-tanned blonde with sunglasses going, I'm with my tattooed, boyfriend, and we're traveling because we're young and we're hip and blah, blah, blah. And usually it's either paid for by mommy and daddy or, they got some sort of deal, And if they're older people, they're not, they're privileged. A lot of times they have privilege. If you want to call it white privilege or white privilege, this is the rant. I don't care. White privilege or whatever, right? Oh, we're both in our 30s or 40s and we're both in the marketing industry and we have cushy jobs where we can afford to work part-time on our laptops while we travel the country in a van. Great. Not a lot of people have those options. People working in service industries, people busting their asses, warehouses or manual labor, blue collar, you don't always have that option to freaking just travel around and work from a laptop. Right? You have that luxury at your point in life where you can afford to do that. Most people can't. So you're not saving money. You have privilege. You have some nice fancy van and a cushion. And you don't show that. They don't show them sitting in a Walmart parking lot trying to get Wi-Fi, fucking working 8 hours to finish some project. They don't show you that part, sitting at a Starbucks or wherever they can get, Wi-Fi, food, warmth, or air conditioning. You know what I mean? That's another thing about vans. People say, oh, well, in the wintertime you go down south and in the summertime you go up north. Bullshit. There's going to be numerous situations when in the summer it's going to be 90 degrees and you're literally burning alive in that van, that heat box of a van. It's just metal and you're going to be dying and you're going to think, holy shit, how do I cool this? And you have to have some sort of expensive, complicated air conditioning system or a fan. I don't know. And then in the winter time, you're going to be freezing your ass off trying to get a dangerous heater in there. It just seems miserable most of the year. And most of these places you go to, they don't have that many amenities, or you have to pay for amenities at campgrounds and shit. So you're going to be sweating your ass off all stinky, parking at some public state park, forest, whatever, national park, trying to find amenities, trying to get your clothes cleaned, trying to find a bathroom to take a shit. Sounds horrible. You're going to end up in a Walmart parking lot, sweating your ass off, miserable. You know what I mean? It just seems absolutely fake and awful to live in a van and keep it temperature controlled long term without being miserable, right? If I went in a van right now, I'd be freezing my literal ass off. I would probably be dead because it would get down to 20 or 10 degrees at night and I would have no efficient way to heat myself besides just a sleeping bag and I'd be pretty awful. Oh, we'll just go down south. Well, either it'd still be cold or it'd be too hot regardless. There's no, unless you pick specifically perfect fucking areas where you can I picked a specific, I don't know, mountains of Arizona or some shit where it's 60 degrees. I don't fucking know. but it's bullshit. Same thing with tiny houses. Tiny houses are just decorations. That's what they are. They're pieces of art. They're not practical. You'd be more practical to live in a van. You can't park it in most places legally. You have to get land, which is expensive. Or you can travel around to national parks and things, but you can only stay there for a few days at a time. You don't have a lot of amenities. Where you're going to shit, where you're going to shower, all these complications, right? You know, it's still going to have temperature issues. Oh my God, it's freaking 1,000,000 degrees in this tiny house, or it's freaking freezing in this tiny house because it's poorly insulated because it's just a fucking trailer and it's made poorly, and it's also probably a fire hazard. There are all these fucking problems. They're nice. They're cute looking, you and your husband and your dog, and you can be hiking and live a life of whatever. But you have to move that shit constantly. Worry about the police knocking. Hey, you got to move your trailer. This isn't, your land. You know what I mean? There are all these fucking problems to why it's complete bullshit. Right? Name me. I want to find how many people are actually living and enjoying broke. I'm talking about young people who don't have a lot of money, who don't have cushy jobs, who don't have mommy and daddy bankrolling them. I want to know a bunch of Instagram influencers or whatever who can live in a van or a tiny house for years and afford it and pay for it and be comfortable and not be miserable. I want to know people. I don't think there is that many, because you either have money to where you can just comfortably get an income working on Wi-Fi or whatever, or you have an apartment or a house you live in a few days a week or a few months of the year. I mean, I don't know anyone who live in a van or a tiny house full time and somehow afford it. It's, and these tiny houses are expensive now. You see some of these pre-built ones, it's like, oh, $60,000. That's not cheap. $40,000. That's not a fucking affordable. And you need a car to tow it, or land to put it on, or to beg someone, hey, can I put my trailer on your land? You know what I mean? It seems awful, and it's bullshit. Why? And not enough people are calling it out as bullshit, because that's what it is. It's bullshit. Vans used to be for poor people, or people who got kicked out of their apartments or houses, who had to live somewhere. And it wasn't fun because you'd be sweating your ass off or freezing your ass off, trying to find showering, trying to find a place to go shopping, to do your laundry and all this stuff. It's annoying as hell. It's not fun. So I don't get this van lifestyle. It's all image. It's all for Instagram and social media and making money. And, like, a good example is, I don't know, Steffi Lee. I remember watching some of her content. I think she had, like, some health condition, cystic fibrosis or something, where she didn't think she was going to live that long of a life. But she's in her 20s, I guess, and there's new, medical treatments now. So, anyway, she's, some young blonde, and, she's very nice, and she's an amazing artist. I'm not going to, but she lived in a van built by her and probably mostly her father helping her out, right? And she probably lived in that van, I'm guessing, for like a month or two at most. And then she's like, yep, I'm done. Yep, I'm moving on, right? And I guess she said something about, she was getting invited to like some show about building vans, some reality show about van building. And it's like, what? She lived in a van for like a month. She's not some long-term serious van lifer, but I guess you're good looking and you're young and you're blonde. It's like, well, we'll throw you on a show. It's bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit, right? It's just, I don't have much more of anything to say, because I'm, woohoo. But yeah, van life, it's bullshit. Tiny houses, for the most part, are bullshit. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. If anyone, and I'm sure there's examples of people who have lived, in tiny houses for years and enjoy it, and they're just, they make, I only make 12 an hour part-time somewhere and I get by. I'm sure there are some people like that who are in vans, sure, but I think the majority of them are either not in a van or a tiny house most of the year, or they only go around and do it for social media, It's just, that's the way it seems on the surface. And there's so many complications to where it just, living in a van or a tiny house full time seems miserable. It just is. So I don't know, what's your guys' opinions on tiny houses or or van life? Do you think it's nonsense? Do you think it's legitimate? Do you think there really is a bunch of 20-year-olds who don't have a lot of money working hard to refurbish a van and live out their dreams, traveling across the West Coast or whatever? Do you think that's really a thing, or is it all just wealthier people trying to show off, trying to get influence? What do you think?